The dawn on Viridian 3 broke with vibrant hues splashing across the sky, painting the lush greenery in vivid colors. On this frontier planet, Captain Marcus Flint stood at his residence's balcony, taking in the serene view before the day's chaos ensued. Known for his stern yet fair leadership, Marcus was a seasoned military officer tasked with the safety and development of this growing human colony. Today was significant. Representatives from the Galactic Council were due to arrive for negotiations about the expansion of human territories. The Council, an assembly of various alien races, had always viewed the rapid growth of human colonies with a mix of fascination and concern. Marcus adjusted his uniform, readying himself for the delicate talks that lay ahead. As he was about to leave, his young son, Toby, tugged at his sleeve, showing him a drawing of the two of them holding hands under a sky filled with both Earth's and Viridian 3's moons. "For luck today, Daddy," Toby said with a grin. Marcus ruffled his son's hair, tucked the drawing into his jacket, and promised to be back for dinner. The negotiation room was stifling, filled with representatives from different worlds, their features ranging from the scaled skin of the Draxians to the luminous eyes of the Alari. Discussions dragged on, with every party pushing their agenda. Despite the tension, Marcus's thoughts often drifted to Toby's drawing, a reminder of why he fought so hard for this colony's future. As the meeting concluded, Marcus's communicator buzzed incessantly. His heart sank as he read the message. Toby was missing. Security footage last captured him playing near the woods, an area now marked by eerie stillness and signs of a struggle. Marcus rushed to the scene, his military instincts kicking into high gear. The disarray suggested a calculated abduction, not a random act of violence. His worst fears materialized when further investigation revealed the kidnappers were not mere outlaws, but agents of the Galactic Council. This was no simple abduction. It was a targeted strike, possibly to leverage the ongoing negotiations. As night fell, Marcus stood amidst the chaos, the alien stars cold and indifferent above him. His mission had changed. No longer was he just a negotiator or a colonial leader. He was a father driven by a primal urge to protect his child. With his resolve hardened, Marcus initiated a call to arms among his troops. They were not just fighting for their homes now, but also for one of their own. The spark of war had been ignited by the very beings who had come under the guise of peace. Now, there would be repercussions, and Marcus Flint would stop at nothing to bring his son home. After a harrowing night of little sleep and much preparation, Marcus Flint stood before a hastily assembled team of his most skilled operatives in the pre-dawn darkness. The air was charged with tension, each team member aware of the stakes at hand, not just a mission, but a rescue operation for the captain's own flesh and blood. Their destination was Luxor, the central hub of the Galactic Council, where intelligence suggested Toby was being held. The journey through hyperspace was tense, the usual hum of the engines now sounding like an ominous drumbeat to Marcus's ears. He pored over every piece of intelligence, every satellite image and surveillance report they had on Luxor, determined to leave no stone unturned. Upon arrival, the team disguised themselves as traders in rare goods, blending into the bustling trade flows of Luxor. The planet was a melting pot of the galaxy's races, its vibrant markets a facade that belied the sterile corridors of power that lay beneath. It was in one such corridor, hidden deep within a Galactic Council stronghold, that they found what they were looking for. Using a combination of stealth tech and brute force, they accessed a secure facility, the likely location of where Toby was being held. Inside, the stark, cold interior was a sharp contrast to the lively market above. They moved silently, communicating through gestures, their path lit only by the soft glow of their tactical displays. Marcus's heart raced as they approached a heavily guarded sector of the facility. The security was unlike anything they had anticipated, suggesting the importance of what, or who, was held within. Using a coded override device, they breached the final door, and Marcus led the charge into the room. The scene that unfolded was one Marcus had feared but hoped he would not see. His son Toby, along with several other human children, was part of what looked like a cruel experimental setup, monitored by alien scientists. The children were visibly distressed, hooked up to strange devices that seemed to be extracting some kind of biological data. Rage and relief collided within Marcus as they quickly neutralized the guards and scientists. The team's medic began disconnecting Toby and the others from the machines, their young faces expressing confusion and fear. Marcus embraced Toby, who was physically unharmed but shaken. The reunion was brief, though, as the mission was far from over. They needed to extract quickly, but first, Marcus accessed the facility's data core, downloading everything related to the experiments. The data revealed horrifying truths. The Galactic Council was testing human resilience and adaptability to various environmental and psychological stresses, intending to use the findings to manipulate human colonies more effectively. With Toby safe and significant evidence in hand, the team fought their way back to their ship. As they ascended from the depths of Luxor, Marcus looked down at his son, now asleep from exhaustion and sedatives administered for his safety. The mission had been a success, but the revelation of the Council's actions had lit a new fire in Marcus. It wasn't just about saving Toby anymore. It was about defending humanity itself against a threat that was more insidious and widespread than anyone had realized. The war, it seemed, was just beginning. Back on Viridian 3, the news of the Galactic Council's atrocities spread like wildfire, fueling a wave of indignation and resolve among the human colonies. In the wake of Toby's rescue, Marcus Flint transformed from a local military leader into the emblem of a burgeoning resistance. His personal ordeal resonated deeply with families and soldiers alike, uniting disparate human outposts with a single, unyielding purpose: to retaliate. Marcus stood before a large assembly of human leaders and military commanders gathered from across the sector. The hall buzzed with a mix of anger and anticipation. As he stepped onto the podium, a hush fell over the crowd. Marcus shared the harrowing details of the Council's experiments, the images of the children in distress projected behind him, leaving the audience in stunned silence followed by uproarious fury. With the evidence laid bare, Marcus's call to arms was met with an overwhelming response. Fleets were mobilized, and resources pooled as the human territories prepared for a full-scale conflict. The unity was palpable, with miners, farmers, scientists, and soldiers contributing to the war effort. Human ingenuity and resolve were at their peak, with rapid advancements in weaponry and defenses tailored to counter the Galactic Council's technology. Strategically, Marcus planned a series of initial strikes aimed at disrupting the Council's supply lines and communication networks. These guerrilla tactics were designed to sow confusion and fear, leveraging the element of surprise that humans still held. Special units, including Marcus's own team, were redeployed to critical locations, their operations shrouded in secrecy. Amidst the war preparations, Marcus also formed an alliance with other alien races disillusioned with the Council's dominion. These new allies provided invaluable intelligence and resources, enriching the strategic depth of the human forces. One such ally, the Tisari, a race known for their stealth technology, became instrumental in planning covert operations. As fleets assembled and alliances solidified, Marcus found moments of solace with his son Toby, who was slowly recovering under the care of the colony's best doctors. Their bond, once marked by brief moments of peace amidst the chaos of colonial life, now deepened with the shared experience of loss and resilience. Toby, understanding the stakes, supported his father, often joining him in strategy sessions with his childlike yet poignant insights into the minds of his captors. The night before the first wave of attacks, Marcus addressed his troops, now a diverse and formidable force ready to challenge the might of the Galactic Council. Under the starlit sky of Viridian 3, his speech was not just a battle cry, but a solemn vow to protect humanity from tyranny and fear, to ensure no other child would suffer as Toby had. With the dawn, the human fleet, larger and more unified than ever, set out towards the border systems of the Galactic Council. Marcus, aboard the flagship Vindicator, watched as ships warped into the darkness, their courses set for battle. In his hand, he held the drawing Toby made, now a symbol of what they were all fighting for. The galaxy braced for war, underestimating the fierce resolve of a united humanity, ignited by the spark of one man's love for his son and his people. Under the cover of darkness, the human armada, spearheaded by the flagship Vindicator, surged through the void toward their initial targets. Marcus Flint, his features set in grim determination, watched from the command deck as the fleet approached the outer defenses of the Galactic Council's border systems. The silence was punctuated by the soft hum of the ship's systems and the quiet murmur of his crew, each member tensed for the battle ahead. Their first target was the military outpost on Alarix, a strategic node in the Council's supply chain. The outpost orbited a desolate moon, heavily fortified but not expecting an attack of this magnitude. As they neared, Marcus initiated the battle plan with a nod to his tactical officer. Within moments, the silence of space was shattered by the barrage of newly developed plasma cannons, their brilliant arcs of light cutting through the darkness toward the unsuspecting outpost. The initial salvo was devastating. Shield generators flickered and died as human ships swarmed the outpost, deploying troops and armored drones to seize control. Marcus led from the front, his presence on the ground rallying his soldiers as they fought through the corridors of the alien facility. The battle was fierce but swift, the element of surprise giving the humans a decisive edge. As the outpost fell, Marcus's forces quickly secured the alien communication arrays and weapons caches. Engineers worked feverishly to repurpose the technology, turning the Council's own assets against them. News of the victory spread, boosting morale across the human fleet and inspiring further raids on neighboring systems. Meanwhile, Marcus's alliance with the Tessari proved invaluable. Using their stealth technology, human squads infiltrated and disabled several key relay stations across the Council's territories, disrupting their ability to coordinate a counterattack. These strikes were not just military maneuvers, but also psychological warfare, demonstrating the reach and resolve of human forces. Back on the Vindicator, Marcus received reports from various fronts. Each successful operation was a testament to human ingenuity and bravery, but also a stark reminder of the war's stakes. Casualties were unavoidable, and with each life lost, the burden on his shoulders grew heavier. Yet, amid the reports of battles and losses, there were also messages of hope. Rescued prisoners, liberated outposts, and grateful alien civilians spoke of a different kind of victory, one that transcended mere military success. As the initial phase of the campaign concluded, Marcus stood before a strategic map, dotted with markers representing human advances and Council strongholds still resisting. The war was far from over, and a counterstrike from the Galactic Council was imminent. But humanity had achieved its first significant victories, proving not only their capability to stand against the Council, but also their potential to win. Preparing for the next phase, Marcus knew the real challenge lay ahead. The Council would retaliate, likely with overwhelming force. Every soldier under his command, every ship in the fleet needed to be ready. He sent out orders for repairs and reinforcements, bolstering defenses and shoring up alliances. In the quiet of his quarters, Marcus allowed himself a moment of respite, looking at the stars through the viewport. Each point of light seemed both distant and close, representing a world, a battle, perhaps a future. For now, they had struck the first blow, a crucial step toward their ultimate goal. With resolve steeled, he turned away from the stars and back to the war that awaited, ready to lead humanity through whatever came next. As the human fleet regrouped for the next phase, Marcus Flint received intelligence about a high-value target on the planet Draconis, a secret research facility rumored to be at the heart of the Galactic Council's experimental programs on humans. Recognizing a pivotal opportunity, Marcus organized a covert strike team, including himself, knowing the mission's success could shift the war's balance dramatically. Draconis was a fortress world, its defenses a daunting array of orbital platforms and surface-to-air missile sites. The planet's thick, stormy atmosphere made a stealthy approach possible, masking the strike team's small, cloaked vessels as they penetrated the heavy cloud cover under the cover of a raging tempest. The facility was located in a remote mountain range, its entrances heavily guarded and concealed within the natural rock formations. Using the Tessari stealth tech, Marcus and his team infiltrated the complex, bypassing layers of security with a mixture of technological prowess and sheer nerve. Inside, the corridors were sterile and oppressive, lined with steel and shadows. The team moved silently, guided by the faint hum of the facility's power core. Their objective was not just to gather intelligence this time, but to cripple the Council's capabilities by freeing the subjects of their inhumane experiments. They reached the main lab, a vast chamber filled with containment units and monitoring equipment. Here, the team discovered not just humans, but beings from various species, all subjected to cruel tests. Marcus's heart clenched at the sight, each prisoner's eyes reflecting a mix of fear and fading hope. The rescue operation was swift, Marcus's team dismantling the containment systems and leading the prisoners to safety. Among them was a high-ranking scientist, a defector who revealed the full extent of the Council's plans. They intended to create biological weapons by harnessing the unique physiological traits of different races, with humans being a key component due to their adaptability and resilience. With the facility's alarms blaring and reinforcements en route, Marcus made a critical decision. Rather than retreating immediately, they planted explosives to destroy the lab, ensuring no further atrocities could be committed there. As they exfiltrated under heavy fire, the facility erupted behind them, a towering inferno in the cold Draconis night. The mission's success was a turning point. News of the daring raid and the horrors uncovered at the facility spread quickly, galvanizing further support for the human cause across the galaxy. Allies from other species, previously non-committal, now came forward to join the fight against the Galactic Council, outraged by the evidence of its experiments. As Marcus and his team returned to their ship, weary but resolute, the implications of their actions were clear. They had struck a significant blow against the Council, not just militarily, but morally and psychologically. Humanity had exposed the depths of the Council's depravity, winning hearts and minds both at home and across the galaxy. However, Marcus knew this victory would provoke a fierce response. The Galactic Council would see this attack on their secret facility as an existential threat. As he prepared his fleet for the inevitable backlash, Marcus felt a grim satisfaction. They had shown the galaxy that humanity would not just fight for survival, but for justice, no matter the odds. The next battle would be crucial, and he was ready to lead his forces into it, no matter the cost. In the aftermath of the raid on Draconis, the Galactic Council was forced into a corner, their dark secrets laid bare for the galaxy to witness. The repercussions were immediate and severe, with several member species questioning their allegiance to the Council. Amid this turmoil, the Council's leadership convened in emergency sessions, their response brewing a storm that would sweep across human territories. Marcus Flint, aware of the imminent backlash, bolstered his fleet's readiness, consolidating his forces at strategic points. Intelligence reports indicated massive mobilizations within Council territories, suggesting a counter-offensive on a scale previously unseen. The human colonies braced for impact, reinforcing their defenses and preparing for the worst. The Council's retaliation was swift and brutal. A multi-pronged assault launched simultaneously across several human-held systems. The battles were fierce, with the Council deploying advanced warships and elite troops, many of whom were specially trained to combat human tactics. The skies above contested planets lit up with the blaze of ship cannons and the fiery trails of falling craft. On the front line, Marcus commanded from the Vindicator, his presence a rallying cry for his troops. In one of the largest battles, over the agricultural planet of New Eden, Marcus faced the enemy's flagship, a colossal vessel known as the Dominion. The battle was a grueling test of strategy and endurance. Marcus, leveraging his knowledge of Council tactics from the stolen data, executed a series of daring maneuvers that turned the tide, leading to the destruction of the Dominion and a crucial victory for the human forces. However, not all battles swung in their favor. The Council managed to reclaim several outposts, pushing back against the human advance with ruthless efficiency. Each loss was a blow to the morale and strength of Marcus's coalition. The war had become a brutal attrition conflict, each side trading blows, gaining and losing ground in equal measure. Throughout these dark times, Marcus remained a beacon of resolve. His speeches transmitted across human networks were not just calls to arms, but messages of unity and perseverance. He spoke of the sacrifices made, honoring those who had fallen and reminding everyone of the justness of their cause. As the war dragged on, Marcus also faced internal challenges. Dissent and fatigue began to fray the edges of his alliance. The continuous conflict, the losses, and the ever-present threat of annihilation tested the limits of human endurance and alliance loyalty. Amidst this chaos, a covert message from an unlikely source turned the tide once again. A faction within the Galactic Council, appalled by the leadership's war decisions, reached out, offering critical intelligence in exchange for asylum. This unexpected alliance provided Marcus with the opportunity to plan a decisive strike directly at the heart of the Council's power, Luxor itself. With new allies and vital intelligence, Marcus planned the most daring operation of the war. As fleets regrouped and soldiers readied themselves for the next phase, there was a palpable sense of impending climax in the conflict. The next moves would be critical, a dance of diplomacy, subterfuge, and raw power. Marcus knew the risks were immense, but the reward, a chance to end the conflict and secure a future for humanity, was worth every danger. With the galaxy watching, he prepared to lead his forces into what could be the final battle. As the war escalated to unprecedented levels, Marcus Flint and his coalition prepared for the most audacious offensive of their campaign, an all-out assault on Luxor, the heart of the Galactic Council's dominion. With new intelligence from their unlikely allies within the Council itself, they devised a plan not just to strike a decisive blow, but to end the war outright. Luxor was a stronghold like no other. a planet bristling with advanced defenses and surrounded by a fleet of warships that outmatched any single species navy in the galaxy. To confront this formidable bastion, Marcus unified his forces, rallying every available ship, soldier, and ally to the cause. The battle plan was multifaceted, involving simultaneous strikes at multiple key points to disperse and confuse the Council's forces. The initial phase involved feints and diversions, executed to perfection by allied species adept in deceptive tactics. These maneuvers drew significant parts of the Council's fleet away from Luxor, creating vulnerabilities Marcus's main fleet exploited. As they approached Luxor, the intensity of the conflict grew. Space around the planet became a chaotic battlefield, studded with the debris of destroyed ships and the flare of ongoing combat. Marcus led the charge from the Vindicator, targeting the planetary shield generators. Each squad knew their role, having rehearsed the plan to the smallest detail. As they penetrated the outer defenses, ground troops prepared for deployment, their task to secure the shield control stations. The space around them was a maelstrom of energy beams and explosive ordnance, but the human fleet pressed forward, driven by a mix of desperation and calculated courage. On the surface, Marcus personally led a contingent of elite soldiers in a daring ground assault. They fought their way through the fortified installations, encountering fierce resistance from Council loyalists. Every step forward was hard-won, with Marcus at the forefront, never asking his troops to go where he would not lead. Amid the chaos, a pivotal moment came as human forces, with the aid of their new allies, managed to disable the main shield generator. The success of this critical mission allowed the orbital fleet to intensify their bombardment, targeting military and command structures with precision strikes designed to cripple, not annihilate, to avoid unnecessary casualties. The ground battle raged on, and Marcus found himself in the corridors of the Council's central command, a labyrinth of polished metal and shadow. Here he confronted a high-ranking Council general, their duel a microcosm of the larger conflict. It was brutal and brief. Marcus, fueled by years of grief and rage, overcame the alien commander, his victory marking the fall of Luxor's central defense hub. As the Council's forces surrendered or retreated, the battle for Luxor drew to a close. The victory was profound, not just tactically but symbolically. Marcus stood among his weary but triumphant soldiers looking out over a city that had never expected to be breached. The cost had been great, many lives lost on both sides, and the scars of battle marked both the planet and those who fought on it. In the aftermath, as the smoke cleared, humanity faced the challenge of leading a coalition to rebuild not just the war-torn worlds, but a galaxy's broken trust. Marcus, now seen as a leader of not just a military force, but a movement for change, initiated talks to establish a new galactic order, one that would ensure peace and justice, learning from the ashes of conflict. As he coordinated the recovery and rebuilding efforts, Marcus knew that the true victory would be in what followed the war, the construction of a society that could prevent such conflicts from arising again. This was his new mission, as he shepherded the birth of a new era from the chaos of scorched galaxies. The war was over. The Galactic Council had been dismantled, its worlds now freed from its authoritarian grip, and a new alliance was being formed under the leadership of Marcus Flint. As peace settled across the galaxy, the rebuilding process began, a monumental task that required cooperation among all species affected by the conflict. Marcus stood on the balcony of the newly established Galactic Alliance headquarters on Luxor, looking out over a city being rebuilt. The scars of war were visible in the crumbled buildings and memorials for the fallen, but there was also a palpable sense of hope. Teams of various alien races worked together, reconstructing what had been destroyed and forging a new path forward. Inside the headquarters, Marcus attended endless meetings with leaders from different worlds. They drafted treaties and set up frameworks for mutual defense and economic recovery. The principles of the new alliance were clear. No single species would dominate, and decisions would be made democratically. It was a radical shift from the hierarchy of the old council, and while debates were often heated, there was a unified commitment to ensure a fairer system. Among the most pressing issues was the establishment of war crimes tribunals. Marcus advocated fiercely for justice for the atrocities committed by the council, especially those involving human experiments. These trials were public and served not only as a catharsis, but also as a stark reminder of the past mistakes that must never be repeated. As the galaxy slowly healed, Marcus also had to tend to his personal life, which had been on hold since the war began. He returned to Viridian 3, where Toby had been living with relatives. Seeing his son, now several years older and much changed by the ordeal, was both a reunion and a reintroduction. Toby had followed the war through news and letters, understanding his father's role and the weight it carried. Father and son spent long days together, walking through the recovering fields of Viridian 3, talking about everything from the war to what the future might hold. Marcus listened more than he spoke, keen to know the young man his son was becoming. It was during these walks that Toby expressed his desire to join the Galactic Alliance's new peacekeeping forces. Though initially resistant, Marcus saw in Toby the same determination that had driven him and eventually supported his decision. Back on Luxor, as Marcus prepared to step down from his role in the military to focus on diplomatic responsibilities, he reflected on the journey that had brought them here. The peace might be fragile, and the future uncertain, but the foundations were strong. Humanity had not only survived, it had thrived, and had led the way to a new era. In the final scene of this chapter, Marcus attended a ceremony honoring those who had fallen in the war. As the sun set over the horizon, casting long shadows over the gathering, he felt the weight of his experiences. The galaxy was forever changed, and so was he. But as he looked around at the faces of friends, family, and former foes now united, he knew that they were all ready to face whatever challenges might come, together. The ashes of the old worlds had given birth to something new and hopeful, and for Marcus, that was the true victory.